Hello, everyone, and if you're in the UK, happy Jubilee week. Um, whether you're a Republican or a monarchist, happy Jubilee week. I'm going to make a longer video about my thoughts on monarchy, my thoughts on this monarch a bit more in detail, but also more broadly my thoughts on monarchy in this country and the future. For now, just so you know where I lie, I consider myself a moderate royalist. Um, and I'll go more into that. But anyway, I want to just put a few things out there regarding just some trivia around this queen and around her titles and so on. Got listed in my local Starbucks, which I thought was quite creative. It's free, that was great. Um, so there's been a lot going on naturally. I have to be honest, when I after the Diamond Jubilee, first, obviously, like a lot of people, I didn't know if we would have a Platinum Jubilee. But then, when it became clear that she was in quite good health, quite robust for someone of her age, it became obvious that we would, in fact, have a Platinum Jubilee. I mean, I'm still Diamond Jubilee is still rolling off my mouth, so Platinum Jubilee is incredible. Um, but the fact that we have now got this is something, and it has been quite a big thing. Um, Notwithstanding the fact that the monarch is more frail than before, she'll naturally make fewer public appearances, and of course, the Duke of Edinburgh is no longer by her side. Notwithstanding those things, I would say it's been a pretty big event. Um, I mean, there has been street parties around the country. There hasn't been on this street on like 2012, which it's a little bit of a pity. Earlier in the year, my neighbours did discuss something. We have a residents group. We did discuss something, but it looks like that's kind of fizzled out. Nothing has really gone ahead. I've mixed feelings about that. It's because in my street we have quite good neighbourly rapport. On the other hand, I do remember in 2012 it was a little bit there were points where it was a bit awkward because people kind of came in and out, didn't know everyone, and yeah, it's not always. I'm a social person, but sometimes the best celebration is lower key. Um, so that's a pity, but it's not all bad. Uh, I watched the changing of the guard the other day, and that's when because honestly I didn't know the exact itinerary of celebrations. When I saw that start to be live streamed on GB News, the BBC, and so on, I realised that, well, yeah, this is the kickoff of the event. There were some protesters. I don't think they were actually Republican protesters. They were some sort of animal rights people. But yeah, when you have a big crowd, it's almost inevitable. The police seem to act really quickly, naturally. Um, Big crowds there on Pall Mall. There was the Irish Guards, the Grenadier Guards. Say what you want about pomp and ceremony, but it is very, very much part of our culture. Um, yeah, and tomorrow, well, today now, Saturday evening, there's going to be a big Jubilee festival. I did watch, not live, but I watched the equestrian event on YouTube recently, which was quite something. The one where Tom Cruise made an appearance, and there was also equestrian representation from around the world. The Queen, um, she's a woman who still manages to guard her personal feelings on things quite well. But we know that she liked flyovers. We saw that when she came out in the balcony. And she likes equestrian events. About that balcony appearance, incidentally, the man initially beside her, the Duke of Kent, not to be confused with Prince Michael of Kent, but the Duke of Kent, it's one of those royals that's not really high profile, and most people probably don't know what he looks like. But he's the Queen's cousin, and I think he was sort of standing in for Prince Philip. Anyway, so far so good. I think it's all went well. I don't know what the festivities were today, if any. It was a bank holiday, so I'm going to check the news on the hour. Right, what I want to do is just put out some trivia. I probably should have done this at the start, but it is important. Both for the sake of Britons and for our international friends, because quite often when we talk about the Queen, there are some anachronisms that are used, and as a history enthusiast, it does irritate me a little bit. So let's get one thing clear: there is no such thing as the Queen of England. I'm not just looking at Americans, but there's no such thing as a Queen of England. That term, that title just doesn't exist anymore. The last Queen of England, the last monarch to have that title formally was Queen Anne, 300 years ago. I was watching The Favourite recently with Olivia Colman. Queen Anne was the last monarch to have that title formally. What happened was in 1707, the Acts of Union formally joined the Parliament of England and Scotland. Queen Anne thereby became the de facto last Queen of England and the first Queen of the Kingdom of Great Britain, or Queen of Great Britain. So, although she's remembered as not a particularly great monarch, she was seen as quite ineffectual. Her intelligence was questioned, and she was notoriously in poor health. The poor woman had 17 miscarriages. Nevertheless, that was a major thing that happened during her reign, the Acts of Union. Controversial among Scottish nationalists, but in the end of the day, it was a mutual union. What is less known is that in the 1690s, there was something called the Darien Scheme, which was an ill-pursued Scottish endeavour at a sort of Scottish empire, and it failed. It was a terrible failure. So actually, the Scots realised it was in their economic interest to join in this political union. It's also worth bearing in mind that Scotland's arguably golden era, the Age of Enlightenment, the Scottish Age of Enlightenment, which is roughly the 1820s, came after the Act of Union. So that's worth bearing in mind. I mean, in the 1820s, I understand Scotland had three universities. At that point, England still only had two, which was Oxford and Cambridge. So, Scotland was a pioneering force in ingenuity, in intellect, in philosophers, all of that. We figures like Adam Smith and Thomas Carlyle and so on. Um, anyway, so Queen of England, it's an anachronism. When I hear Americans talk about the Queen of England, it does not exist. I know it's easy to say, and maybe it's pedantic to say that that's not accurate because England is part of her realm. But her correct title, Queen Elizabeth II's correct title, is Queen of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth Realm. So the Kingdom of Great Britain, which was this political union of England and Scotland, um, then became the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland in 1800 when Ireland joined in. And then in 1922, when Ireland partitioned and Northern Ireland was created, this year's the centenary of Northern Ireland. Um, it formally became the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Since 1952, with the collapse of the British Empire, her formal title has been the Queen of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth Realm. The Commonwealth Realm basically represents the former British Empire, or at least part of it. Um, Over the years, numerous countries have um, got their independence. They have went their own way. But her current realm includes 14 includes 14 states. There is the United Kingdom, of course, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Jamaica, the Bahamas, Grenada, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, Tuvalu, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Belize, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis. The last state that formally um, dropped the Queen as head of state was Barbados last year. Um, I do always feel it's a bit sad when a country disconnects in that way, but hopefully we will maintain strong ties. There is, of course, thorny issues around slavery and so on, which I'll talk more about in another video. But this is an unprecedented situation, even now, with the Commonwealth realm being reduced. It's from when she became queen. It's an unprecedented situation. Never in history has one queen presided over such a large realm. I mean, 14 states. Even if in the future some of those states decide to become republics, um, I mean, put it this way, we will never see, never, this situation again. We will never, ever see a Platinum Jubilee. That I guarantee. Um, we may see a Silver Jubilee if Charles reigns for 25 years. But in order for that to happen, assuming he takes the throne in the next few years, um, he would have to be, that he would be in his late 90s to even have a silver jubilee. It's plausible. It is plausible, but that might be the last jubilee we ever see. William, the issue with William is, will we still have a monarchy by the time it comes to his silver jubilee? We will never, in my opinion, have another golden jubilee or diamond jubilee, and definitely never another platinum jubilee. It just it's inconceivable, I think. Um, but we could plausibly have another silver jubilee. Um, so that's something that's worth bearing in mind. I appreciate that saying Queen of England is a lot easier than saying Queen of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth Realm, but Queen of the UK or Queen of the United Kingdom isn't so hard, and it's accurate after all. And I do think it's a matter of respect. Um, After all, we wouldn't refer to the President of the United States as the, the the President of the Commonwealth of Virginia or something like that. England is the most populous of her nations, that's true. Within the United Kingdom, the four nations, England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, England is by far the most populous. But she's not just Queen of England, and it's being Northern Irish, I do find it's a bit of a slight to disregard the rest of her realm. The Queen herself, I'm sure, would take issue with that. Um, the last when we had the British Empire, of course, the last King Emperor was her father, King George VI, who was the last Emperor of India. India became independent in 1947. Um, so the Queen was in quite an interesting position. She ascended the throne at a time when the British Empire was being dissolved. It was becoming gradually the Commonwealth of Nations. There's an interesting bit in The Crown, the series The Crown, which looks at her silver jubilee, and she really questions it. In the 70s, we had the energy crisis. We had significant social unrest. There was the troubles in Northern Ireland. There was a lot of issues at that time. And there's an interesting bit where the Queen, played by Olivia Colman, says, all that's happened on my watch is the place is falling apart. And it shows a rendition of that poem by Sir John Betjeman. Um, that was 25 years. We're now marking 70 years. It's a good scene, by the way, in The Crown. I'll put a link to that little video clip. But yeah, that's just a bit of trivia. In terms of world records, I mean, the Queen passes many. She is already the longest verified serving Queen in history anywhere in the world. Um, she is by far the longest serving British monarch. She surpassed Queen Victoria some 6.5, 7 years ago. Victoria ruled for some 63 years and was the only other British monarch to be in a Diamond Jubilee, which she did in 1897. Um, the Queen Elizabeth II will be, in less than 10 days, the second longest serving verified head of state ever. She will, in about 10 days, surpass the record of King Bhumibol of Thailand, also titled King Rama IX, who passed away 6 years ago. And in just 2 years, she will become de facto the longest serving verified monarch in history. There are some monarchs in antiquity. For example, there are certain Egyptian pharaohs who may have reigned longer, but it's hard to verify, particularly with Egyptology being the way it is. It's very hard to verify that. So basically, if she is still on the throne in just 2 years, she will make the record, the longest serving current head of state, the longest serving monarch in British history, and the longest serving monarch ever, period. Interestingly, or incidentally, the only European monarch who has reigned longer is Louis XIV of France, who reigned for some 72 years, um, Sun King. Um, but he was crowned as a child. Elizabeth II was crowned at the age of 26. She is the oldest monarch in British history by far, one of the oldest monarchs in world history. So she just keeps breaking these records. She is a bit more frail than she was, but her health seems to be fairly robust. Her mind is completely astute. So I think any notion of a Regency Act to make Charles Regent is unlikely because it would take the Prime Minister, the Speaker of the House of Commons, and I believe one other person to determine that she is incapacitated. I don't see that happening. Boris Johnson referred to her as Elizabeth the Great. In our system, monarchs generally do not abdicate. Possibly one reason for this is because of memories of the abdication and the divisions it caused within the family. The abdication crisis of 1936, when King Edward VIII stepped down after just a few months on the throne, and he was never even formally crowned. So British monarchs generally do not abdicate. They're basically king or queen until they die. Charles, of course, is already 72. He's already a record breaker in his own right. He's the longest serving Prince of Wales. He will be the oldest monarch when he is crowned. So, on crowning, that is, on ascension. So, this is an interesting time. I will say this, I'll round up with this. I really think even Republicans will acknowledge that something will be very lost when she goes. I'm not talking about fringe figures. I mean, a contact of mine came up to me the other day. I even feel it even feels absurd repeating it in this video in this week, but he came out with some conspiracy theories as to why she can't visit Canada. Just absurd, baseless theories. But anyway, I won't even get into it. But this is something that we don't have les majeste in this country. We don't have caste style insult to majesty laws, but there is a widespread respect and I think admiration and I think yes, in some quarters a love for the Queen, a reverence for the Queen, and I think that when she goes, it's going to be a very strange thing. I mean, for many of us, she is basically anyone in this country under the age of 70, which is the majority, don't know anyone else. I mean, she's been our head of state for the best part of a century now. That is astonishing. Um, in that time, she's had 14 British prime ministers. There's been 14 American presidents, um, and the records just keep going. So it's quite astonishing. I'll leave it there, but remember, Queen of England, an anachronism. She's Queen of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth realm. Thank you for watching and enjoy the Jubilee celebrations.